They followed me home. The VelociPastor. A troubled priest.
How long has it been since your last confession?
Oh, it's been about 2 years. I do drugs, sell drugs, murder people.
Oh!
The VelociPastor. A beautiful girl with a dark past.
Last night was amazing.
What are you talking about?
The time you turned into a dinosaur and ate someone.
What?
Dinosaurs.
You guys talk all the time about helping people. This might actually be the first time in your life you can.
By what? Killing people?
Yes!
Tell me I mean anything to you. Tell me you got better shit to do. Tell me I'm the one disfigured like a mad caress that triggers. Show me I mean anything to you. Show me I mean anything to you.
The VelociPastor.
That's insane, Doug. God does not want people dead.
Oh, I think God wants a lot of people dead.
Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie and find us on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Del Vecchio. With me as always is Mark Meyer. Say hello, Mark.
Hello. Well, I will not keep everyone in suspense, as I mentioned it last week. My team did not succeed in winning the championship, but the one thing I did learn in the matchup, we lost pretty close, like under 10 pins in 2 of the games, and we needed to win 3 of 4. So once they won the second one, it was over. But I realized something, that in any competition or athletic prowess, I think I very much fit into like more being a support or bench player, essentially, because I couldn't imagine like being the best player on my team here and going up there, knowing you need to throw a strike and having the confidence to go, yeah, I'm going to do it, and then do it. And it's like, I could probably do that on a spare, maybe in a pressure situation, but like knowing, all right, we need a strike here to win. And it was just crazy thinking about that. Like just playing the sport for as long as I have and just never, it's kind of like in baseball, equivalent would be like a home run, like going, oh, we need a home run here. You know, and then going up and doing it, you know, it's such there's like a tier of people that can do that. But it was pretty interesting. But yeah, we started at a deficit because of the way the league works. You know, they had a 2-game lead on us, so we needed to win 3 of 4 to get into a extra like sudden death game. But we did not secure that. So next week we just bowl, and if I bowl well, I might win extra money, essentially. So
Nice.
We'll see how that goes.
Cool. Is there any moment in your professional and non-professional sports history where you have risen to the occasion, something like that, like a game-winning something or other?
I had a game tying double in Little League.
Nice.
Like they called the game off for darkness, but I hit a double to tie a game up. Then the next guy didn't come through to knock me home to win, but that was probably the closest. I've had some plays at the plate as defensively as a catcher to end games. And even technically if we do regular season in this bowling league, I didn't think I was going to do it, but I did end up hitting a strike that basically sealed a win for us. And all the other guy behind me had to do was keep it in the lane. 2 gutters would have lost it. But no, that's about it. I had 1 game tying double as a hitter. And that's why I said, I always realize I'm like the support guy. I'm the guy that gets on base and then someone else knocks me in, sort of thing. Or in basketball, I'm the guy that makes the pass to the guy that gets the shot. But yeah, I was thinking that the whole time because we lost the first game because our guy who ended up throwing over a 200 anyway in the game missed the 1 strike he needed for us to win. It was just in that moment, I was just like, wow. was like, I can't imagine being that confident in something going up there.
You don't have that alpha male mindset, man.
Yeah, I think I'm too aware of my skill set is the problem.
Yeah, you're radiating beta cuck energy right now.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
letting you know.
when don't I radiate that? And this is normal.
I'll teach you how to be an alpha male. You just got to send me $200 a month for my seminar.
Yeah, Ant University or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's got a good ring to it.
yeah. On the flip side, someone in my family does have that juice. As my niece got a game-winning hit in a game today.
I thought you were going to say your cousin has a seminar that
No.
teaching people how to be alpha males.
No. She got a game-winning hit today. So it's more. She's definitely in that category because every time she would not get a hit in a big situation, it would, even if it was like a good hit that somebody made a great play on, it would still piss her off to no end. So I was finally glad to see the ball actually fall and not get like a diving catch or anything made on it.
Right.
Here she kind of needed that, but yeah, I was like, yeah, watching that, it was just it was just, as you said, it's just I don't have that. I think I'm in my head too much of knowing that I'm not a top end skill guy. So when I do it, sometimes it's like probably 40% luck for a strike. But yeah, it's been a fun 2 days, ups and downs. But like I said, next week, all I got to do is just bowl and have fun, and just if I been bowling like I have been bowling, I'll win some extra money, and that is what I love about doing a money league over what we call a banquet league. This is for softball, and bowling has these where they just give you a trophy in banquet leagues, and they keep all the money, and in this one they sort of distribute the money back out to everyone. So
I didn't know there was a difference. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this week, as you can hear, we are without Dan again. He is probably on 2 hours worth of sleep right now.
Yeah.
As the baby is here and
So
crying.
you would say Dan's tired.
Dan's tired. I could hear that kid crying from here. Wish him the best and a speedy recovery. But yeah, we're trugging along without him. And this week was Mark's pick. So Mark, why don't you introduce this week's pick?
Yeah, so basically this was a movie I was looking for because I knew both of us had things coming up this week that would make movie watching, tough. So I want to go with something short. And then one of the things I found was a movie I've heard about people talk about, sort of like you with like Hard Ticket to Miami and Savage Beach and all that. And I asked you, because I'm surprised we haven't done it. This week I chose the VelociPastor from, I think it's like 2017 or 2018. A cool 75 minutes, I believe, is the runtime, which is just enough. And this movie, you have some questions in the beginning, like very beginning, if they're in on the joke, or if it's just some unfinished thing that doesn't, that just got released or something. And then he says a line while standing in the woods by himself. He just yells, "China is east," out loud. I'm like, oh, they get it. This isn't The Room, where he's trying to make a sincere movie, but it just comes off awful. They know what they're doing here. And I'm way more interested to hear what you thought on it. I think my favorite line that almost made me spit take was when the girl, I forget her name.
Carol.
I was going to say Carol. I was like to say Carol, but I'm not sure. It sounds too generic. But says the line, not many people are looking for a hooker, lawyer, doctor.
Yeah.
And I was like that. The way she delivered it just made me like cackle out loud. And the idea that she was going to school for pre-med law was pretty clever, and said that with a straight face on there. But yeah, a lot of the stuff, there were some things that, were a little too, I guess the kids would say, cringe nowadays in there. But there were a lot of good, clever, out of nowhere, like really dumb things that they did in this movie that you can tell was probably the reason they got some funding for this. But I think this movie works better having the people know they're in on the joke than being like, as I mentioned earlier, like a Room situation or maybe even Troll 2 or something like that.
Yeah. As for me, I have not watched this before. One of the reasons that I haven't picked this for this podcast is that it is on the joke. Movies like this and Sharknado, where it's just like it's bad on purpose, I tend to avoid, because it's like, all right, well, what are we supposed to be poking fun at? That point. Again, this was 75 minutes. Loved that. That was great.
I knew you would when I saw that.
That was my favorite part of the movie. It was over.
Yeah.
I think it might be 70 minutes long, which was awesome. However, they are struggling. This movie slogs to that 70 minutes. The premise started off, at least according to the trivia, as like a Grindhouse trailer, and I think that's probably how they got funding for it. But I'm assuming that trailer had all the best parts in for this movie, because there is even at 70 minutes there is scenes that are just pure time killer.
Essentially that's what I was saying. Like there's parts that you obviously knew were their best bits and were the things they put in front of producers and stuff like that, and then it was the stuff they had to put there to fill out the rest of it. I don't know where the one priest talking about his Vietnam days fall into that.
Right.
Or, I just thought even though they're in on the joke with most of it, I think they didn't do the thing where I think Sharknado sometimes gets into the fact where they do things that they think the audience is looking for in it. I think these people just came up, like we always joke about, just crazy ideas at the table and just put it on film and put it together. Like the whole character of Frankie Mermaid is just an idea. They came up, probably a pimp with a comb over that just is the slimiest person on the planet.
Yeah.
And I think I was upset with his fate, just because I think you could have wrung a little bit more out of him with certain things. But just the flashback of him near where after the parents' car blew up and him just standing there cackling about it was like chef's kiss. And I'm like, oh, they could have kept this guy around so much more and just kind of pop into situations.
I think to your point that he could have been a better final villain, I guess let's call him.
Yeah.
If they kept him around. The whole ninja thing was kind of stupid. I wasn't on board with it. I think this movie kind of, because movies like Naked Gun, that's in on the joke because it's a parody and it works. I don't know what the difference here is of what I'm not gelling with 100%. Yeah. There's stuff that I found, I was like, that's clever, but overall didn't love it, and I think it's partly because it's so on the nose. But I don't know what separates this from a movie that does know that it's in on the joke. I don't know.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think I'm in the same boat as you. I didn't really like it overall. Obviously, as a movie, they're trying to just be a bad movie, but I think, like you said, I think the things they got right, in my opinion, are the things I don't think they were trying to get right, if you know what I'm saying. Just like, as she's not a great actress, but just the certain way she delivered some of the lines that I don't think were meant to get laughs, but just the way she, like that hooker lawyer doctor line, I think it's just supposed to be like a throwaway, and just the way she just says it with total seriousness and a straight face and not trying to do a wink wink nod to it. I think things like that in the movie are great, when they're not so much trying to make sure that they know that it's a joke. I think Frankie Mermaid is one of those. I think I think on the opposite end, I think The Exorcist is them trying to make a joke. That doesn't land at all. And then in that same scene with the flashbacks, I think the wife showing up out of nowhere in Vietnam and running over the landmine was like one of those pretty good out of nowhere, non sequitur things. That was pretty good. But that's sort of how the movie it's like it'll have these hills and valleys where there's certain things that are good and certain things that work, and then it just for like 5-10 minutes on end, it's just all right, we get it, get the joke, okay, and then keep just keep doing it over and over again, and and I think a lot of the small jokes that don't get caught. I love the fact that he's reading a book called Crime 2 in there, and that because the whole joke in that thing is supposed to be that he's trying to cover up. He's reading another book with a smaller Bible. And I think the better joke is the books that he is reading. And that's essentially what I meant by, there are things that are actually the good jokes that I don't think meant to be the good jokes in the scene, or like what they thought would get the laughs. I did see the sad thing, maybe good thing, maybe if they get a second crack at it, looks like they're making a second one according to IMDb. Yeah, so maybe they'll learn their lesson. Hopefully, they don't try to make it a longer movie.
70 minutes is perfect for this movie.
Yeah, and there was I did like the twist of the brother. I thought that was good, but not being a part of like the ninjas. Yeah. That because the whole ninja storyline was as you said unneeded and ridiculous and probably kind of racist.
Definitely veers in that direction.
Yeah. But yeah, just because I think where the brother works is the flashbacks more than the reveal, which again I think is flip of what they thought the audience would laugh at. I think just having, because I was going to make a joke to you as I'm sitting there. I take mental notes and I'll write down big things that I want to talk to you about. I don't get too intricate in notes, but the one thing I did note was when they were eating dinner with the parents and they do that like stupid laugh track, like ha ha ha, while like there's no sound, and then you see a fourth plate there, and I was gonna make jokes like, did they just like forget that they were only supposed to have 3 people sitting at that table and they set for 4? I think that reveal in the flashback was pretty good, and you're my only son, and then he pops up in the back of the car, like that was good, but not the whole trying to parody, martial arts movies where he pulls the thing down and I'm your brother, thing. But, and I don't know how you felt about this. I can probably guess, but I think the one thing that was overplayed and they thought was going to kill was the whole when Carol was supposedly dying and ninjas were crying over it.
Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah, I think that played out way too long.
Yeah.
I think it would be a good bit if it was about a minute shorter. Just all you need is just them do the scene, you cut up, you see those 2 ninjas, one ninja puts the arm around the other, and they look like they're crying, and then you cut back and you finish the scene. You didn't need the long stares, but I think there's a lot of good ideas in this. I think the seed of you could make a pretty decent one of these movies like in almost a serious fashion, just based off the premise of an ancient tooth infecting someone and turning them into a dinosaur thing. Just that seed you could do stuff with, but I think they went too hard with the joke of it being a Catholic priest that they thought was gonna sell a little better with it. But yeah, overall I thought I was like, hey, this movie people talk about. I know we don't usually do stuff like this, but I feel doing a bad movie podcast, we at least have to articulate, as you did today, why we don't do these types of movies for this, because these are the ones that, at least on my end, they tend to get recommended to me, who don't understand what we do. So partially on the fact that I wanted a short movie, and I thought this was a good fit for this week in particular.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't dislike this movie. It's just some of it doesn't work for me, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know why. I think it's just trying to think to other movies that do this better. I think there's like a lack of consistency here. One of the major things in the first scene, there's like the whole scene of the car exploding. The joke is that they didn't have enough money to have a car explode, so they just put a VFX placeholder in, which is like overly art directed. The placeholder text itself, font, there has specific font and it's drop shadowed, so it's obviously like they're joking that they didn't have enough. That they're putting the placeholder in. It's not like they just left it there accidentally. But like we don't see things like that ever happen again. Well, a little bit towards the end because they don't have money to show a transition back from the Velociraptor, which is technically probably a Tyrannosaurus costume, to back to him. So they do like this weird thing where like the film in the camera jumps or something like that. I think like a movie like Black Dynamite does this tongue-in-cheek, knows it's in on the joke sort of thing 100% better. And obviously there's more money behind that movie. This movie was made for $35,000, so I give them credit. I think when it comes down to it, it's not as funny as they want it to be.
Yeah.
Or they're hoping it is. I think that's really where it comes down to what I'm not getting from it. It's like it's bad. It knows it's bad, but it's not good enough for me to overlook it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think the exact thing I was thinking about when you were talking there, I think it's the idea that I think some people don't really get the concept of the difference between a parody movie and, a movie being bad for being bad. Like, I don't know what type of movie, if this is supposed to be parodying, if at least for, we say Naked Gun, we know what that's parodying.
Right.
Sharknado is parodying disaster movies. Or those weather disaster movies that were all taking place around that time.
Yeah.
I think like The Day After Tomorrow and things like that. Geostorm, which is an example of a movie that's absolutely terrible, but they take it way too seriously.
Right.
I don't know. This is a mixture of all kinds of parody. And I think if they would have, that's why I mentioned the Seed thing. Like if they would have stuck with, making a terrible movie about, someone that turns into a dinosaur and fights crime in a city or something as vigilante, you may have had something, but you had like 3 different types of stories going on. You had that, him being a priest and this feeling it like a demon. You had the love story with, I guess, if you wanted to read into it way more than they probably did biblically, the Mary Magdalene in the story being the love interest here. And then you had the ninja kung fu, 70s like crime, drug, whatever thing. And I don't think any of it meshes. Mm-hmm. You have 3 things that could all be something on their own, possibly, and then you bring it into this and then make it terrible on top of that. And it does, I think what bothers me the most is I think there's only one person that actually, may have, some talent. I think, who's probably, I don't know. I could see the older priest being in things like as just the look and sort of thing in like as a background character actor or something in a movie. Everyone else seems like they're trying too hard at it. And then it's just I think the essential thing that we're boiling down to and just keep circling back to is that I don't think it's as funny as they think it is. I think there are moments that will definitely live down in cult moments. We mentioned them already. Some of the lines. China is East, and Hooker Doctor Lawyer, and just but that thing didn't affect my hands. At the very end, like there'll be small things that'll be like a if between people. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it carries the weight of even like a Troll 2 that it's just I don't think it has enough weight to do that. Maybe part 2 gets a little bit more of that. Who knows? They get a little bit more money. They can do a little bit more stuff. And this was just the stepping stone. But I'm glad. I'm only glad that we watched it just so we could sort of check it off the list and get people to stop asking for these types of movies for a little bit from me. But I'm actually. I'll say one final thing. I'm actually glad it didn't suck. Like that's what I was most worried about. That it was just going to be like eye-rolling cringe, 75 minutes of boredom.
Mhm.
I'm just glad there were moments in it that made it worth watching, and
Right.
actually made me laugh out loud.
Mhm.
And I think they have, if it's multiple writers, I think they have at least one person that sort of gets it a little bit with some of the background stuff going on. But yeah, I'm just glad that it wasn't an awful slog of a movie, especially with the runtime.
Mhm. Yeah, though one of the jokes that I actually thought was clever. It wasn't like laugh out loud clever,
Yeah.
but at the end, she recovers somehow from
Yeah.
getting sliced
Oh,
after her death scene, and he
Yeah.
comes in and is like, "Oh, how you like? You're all right." She says, "I'm fine," and then she like tells him to come closer, and you think if she's going to whisper in his ear that she's pregnant,
Yeah.
but she just says in a whisper. She just reiterates that
Yes.
she's fine,
Fine. Yeah.
which I thought was kind of funny, kind of clever, because I was expecting I'm pregnant because
Yeah.
he's a priest. They had sex, and you're not supposed to do that.
Do all that. But
Yeah.
yeah. And that doctor in that scene also pulls up that the actual funny thing with that doctor is not the thing they want you to laugh at. Like when he sits down and the thing on his head just falls down,
Mhm.
and then he like puts it up. Like I found that to be like a little bit, maybe I'm a little bit easy to just get a chuckle out of. But I was like, oh, that's real stupid. That
Yeah.
that this thing on his head doesn't fit and it falls off. But the joke was supposed to be that he started smoking, which I didn't find funny at all. I'm like, that's way too obvious.
Yeah. Is this a period piece? I have no idea.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the ending of the pilot of that, what's that NBC show? Whatever, the one with Mandy Moore and all that in it.
Oh, This Is Us.
This Is Us.
But
Yeah.
a lot of people smoking it. He drives a very 70s-ish car at the end.
Maybe. They don't
Yeah.
explicitly give you any reason to think that.
I'm trying to think if there are any shots of anybody with cell phones. I don't think there are.
But yeah, that could just be most movies ignore cell phones for the most part.
Yeah.
Unless if they're essential to the plot.
Yeah. I was just thinking out loud.
Yeah. It's like, I can't think. It's kind of like our whole thing with Baby's Day Out. Like, there's so many things that put it in a certain time period, but there are things that make it obviously modern or 80s, essentially. I think and it's not like I bring up that This Is Us. It's not like he starts smoking and it reveals, like, he smokes a cigarette and you look up the TV and you see a news report that the timestamp for. Like, there's nothing like that. Like, the magazines don't even give a hint, of anything. But yeah, it would work kind of better if it was a period piece a little bit, not a whole lot.
Right.
But yeah, like how this guy didn't get caught on TikTok turning into a dinosaur.
Yeah. I think it was more just like the clothes were like, especially with him and Carol, were sort of 70s and their like montage. And there is this kind of send up of 70s kung fu movies. So I was like, and everyone's smoking. Like everybody in this movie smokes.
Yeah.
And he's got the car at the end. I was like, maybe this is supposed to be a 70s. I think that is one of the issues is like where if it was a more focused send up of a specific genre, it would play better for me.
Yeah, I can see that 100%. I actually didn't even think about period piece until you just mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
So that shows you how little it's, that obvious, at least to me.
Yeah, but at the same time, the older priest is supposed to be, he was supposed to be a young man in Nam, and the joke there is that it's the same actor playing him with just a blonde mustache and blonde hair instead of gray mustache, gray hair. And in reality, if this was a period piece of the 70s, it would have been like 5 years at worst. Difference. So maybe it's not. Yeah,
but it's something. It's like this movie could have had that continuity issue.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever. But it's it's good to show. At least I know now that there's levels to these types of movies going forward.
Yeah, like I said, didn't hate it, but just didn't work on the whole. But The VelociPastor for 2018 is directed by Brendan Steer, stars Gregory Jones Cohen, Alyssa Kempinski, Daniel Steer, Aurelio Voltaire, which can't be a real name, Fernando Pacheco de Castro, and David Sokol. IMDb score of 5.1, Rotten Tomatoes score of 65%. Budget, according to Wikipedia, $26,000, and there is no box office numbers for this. Alrighty. Well, usually this is where Dan does his thing.
Yeah.
Talk about Top 10 with Tia on YouTube and with Geek Vibes Nation, as well as Game Vault Pod, which is Mark's thing.
Yeah.
A little bit of hiatus, but we are streaming.
Yeah, I can do a quick rundown of that. So streaming looks like it's going to be at least 3 times a week, Monday, Thursday, and either Saturday or Sunday. We're possibly going to 4. With my love of blowing through the Fallout TV show, I'm thinking of maybe picking up a Fallout playthrough for like a Sunday or something like that. But yeah, because there's a new update it to the old game to make it look a lot better on newer systems. So we might do that. And then obviously we have Friday night is technically a stream, but it's really my, I'm calling it the news hour, where I just talk about what I've been playing, talk to the chat, talk about the news, and then that goes up in the podcast feed. That'll be every week. So if you want to watch it live and be there interacting with me in the chat, it starts at 9 p.m. every Friday. And then, we can just talk about what's been going on in games. But it's going to be just me by myself for a couple months here. So get used to it.
Okay, great. We're going to take a quick break, and you guys are going to listen to messages from friends of the podcast. So we will be right back. And welcome back. And now it's time to talk about the plot for the VelociPastor. We open, and the VelociPastor is a try-hard, intentionally bad movie for the sake of some cheap laughs. It's so thought out that the placeholder text for a supposed missing VFX is art-directed and drop-shadowed.
Yeah, and even, I was still questioning at this point if they were in on it. Even with the dopey wave to the parents, I just thought they got, bad, community theater actors or something, on, day of shooting, and just told them they had to turn around, smile, and wave because it didn't fit at all in what the scene was portraying. But as soon as this text popped up is when I, my eyebrow raised, and I was like, okay, this isn't what I thought it was.
Right.
And that it's good that it happened early, because then I could change my expectations for the rest of the movie.
Sure. Starts with our titular VelociPastor witnessing his parents' death due to a nonsensical car explosion. This causes another pastor to say that parents die, and urges our pre-Velost pastor to travel and see the world.
I forgot that was his first line to him.
Yeah.
Well, parents die. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Awful priest.
So I guess he drives to the woods of China, which looks an awful lot like the Pine Barrens.
Yeah.
And he comes in contact with a woman seemingly out of time who gets shot by an arrow for some unseen assailant. She gives him an artifact that looks like a giant tooth and then says Dragon Warrior and dies.
Yeah.
Pastor then. Good.
The thing that made me, they didn't even get a chuckle, but it sort of made me smile a little bit, is when they were doing the old classic, she's just yelling at him in Chinese or whatever language they were trying to portray here, because God knows with this type of movie. And then he's just keeps saying back in English, I don't know what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
What? And just had that drag on a little too long there.
Yeah. Pastor then cuts his hand on the artifact and starts to get dizzy and passes out. Wakes up in a sweat, and the other pastor says some vaguely racist things about China, then tells him to eat something.
Yeah.
Pastor now starting. Good.
Sorry. Yeah. I just like that. It makes you question what you saw, because he comes in the room. He's like, "You had that dream again, didn't you?"
Right. Yeah. Pastor now starting to feel the effects being properly velost. Leaves stumbling around the streets of New York and runs into a prostitute who then gets slapped around by her pimp, Frankie Mermaid, because he's swimming in bitches, as he says. He tells her to go work the park that night because that's where all the money is, even though there's absolutely nobody in the park. In the park at night, the pastor veloses out and winds up attacking a guy that tries to mug our hero prostitute.
I don't know why the phrase "velosa out" made me laugh so much, but that is exactly what happens throughout this movie.
And the next morning, he winds up with no memory of what happened, and she's there with him and tells him what happened after he initially thinks that they slept together the night before. So she takes him to where she stashed the body in the woods, and she mentions she's pre-med law. He freaks out because she's a prostitute, and second because he turned into a velociraptor.
Yeah, priorities there.
Yeah. But she tries to look at the bright side, telling him that eating a mugger as a velociraptor is the most Christian thing he could possibly do. Doesn't see her point, so he runs off because he's late for confessions. And the first confession winds up being Frankie Mermaid, who cavalierly offers up all the crimes that he's committed over the last couple of years.
This is why I wanted Frankie Mermaid to be around a little bit longer. It's just the way he says it, and he's like, oh man, it's so great to be able to say this. Just get it off my mind. Like the exact joke that everybody makes about Catholic confession.
Sure. Yeah. He's a good heel in this movie, and he could be around longer. He mentions that he was the one that blew up the car that killed VelociPastor's parents. So Pastor starts raptoring out and grabs Frankie through the screen, demanding to know why he killed his parents. And Frankie says he was just following orders, and the pastor cuts Frankie's throat with his raptor claw. Pastor goes to Carol's apartment. Carol's the prostitute, and he decides that killing people as a raptor is extremely Christian, so he's going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And then we get a montage of him training, intercut with Pastor and Carol spending time together, and scenes of him eating people as a raptor.
I think it's in this montage is when they do the old romantic comedy stretch arm around her. And then, I was like, okay, that, they got that right to show, them slowly falling for each other.
Yeah. I will say, I've seen quite a bit, doing 31 Days of Horror and just watching a lot of garbage that was on Amazon Prime. You get a sense with like a lot of these low budget horror movies that there is a certain type of woman they get to cast in these movies, and she's not one of them. So I applaud them for that. And it might have to do with that she didn't have to take her top off.
Yeah. 100%.
I'm not besmirching the names of the women that are in those other movies that do take their tops off. But yeah, there's just a marked difference, I will say.
Yeah. They actually probably, unless if we find out that she's friends with somebody involved in the production and all that, they probably actually went with the one that they felt delivered the jokes the best. Whatever that means, whether it's good or bad, can be kind of subjective. But I think, like you said, they look more for line delivery than, visuals on screen.
Yeah. Back in quote-unquote China, a ninja drug dealer talks about his drug trade with an Evan Peters-looking doof, but says they need to get rid of the Dragon Warrior first.
Yeah.
Back in the monastery, the other pastor tells VelociPastor he's been spending too much time with that Jezebel Carol, and VelociPastor tells him that he feels he has a spirit living inside of him, and the pastor believes that means they should perform an exorcism.
Yeah. And the damn it, I shouldn't have told him sort of moment for the pastor here. But yeah, I like how he locks him in the room. Mm-hmm. Like that this guy couldn't like Veloci out, as you said, and just get out of that room.
Yeah.
If he wanted to.
VelociPastor tells him he believes it is asking him to do God's work. The other pastor locks him in his room, and while he goes to talk to the diocese. VelociPastor then has some flashbacks of his parents and his time at priest college. And the other pastor...
I forgot they called it priest college. That's pretty good.
The other pastor then comes back and says the diocese will take too long, so he takes him to some sort of back alley exorcist that looks like Chris Angel Mind Freak.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they were going for here.
Yeah. And then the older pastor has a Vietnam flashback of his war buddy getting killed, and then his girlfriend inexplicably being there in Nam, getting blown up by a trip mine.
Yeah, and I like is a strong word here, but I did enjoy that they at least had the other two soldiers acknowledge the situation.
Sure.
Like, what was she doing in the jungle?
Mm-hmm.
That was weird.
We then come back to Chris Angel, exorcist, doing his thing. As the exorcism goes on, VelociPastor starts to feel bad and then starts to turn into the raptor, stabs the pastor, and runs off. As he runs through the woods, the ninjas show up and try to attack him, but through some quick cuts, we come to realize that he kills them with his raptor powers. He goes back to Carol's apartment and tells her what happened, and he starts to freak out, but then she calms him down, and then she kisses him, and then they fuck.
Yeah, that this may go down as the most overproduced part of the movie with all the different but if I think it would work better if the preceding 40 minutes of the movie wasn't as, as much, trying to be like we keep saying be in on a joke and all that, because I think this popping up out of nowhere when when you're trying to take it semi-seriously works a lot better than when you already know they know, sort of thing. But I think it's a really fun idea for how to do a montage of a sex scene where you're not going to show any bits really. And I did love the four longing stares when it was just the single close shots of them. But yeah, the thing that happens next is probably one of the most ridiculous scenes in the movie.
In the morning, a bunch of ninjas jump through the windows, but VelociPastor and Carol manage to subdue all of them. And one of them gives him a rosary telling him to remember his faith.
All of a sudden, she knows how to fight.
Yep. They fight off an entire team of ninjas.
Yeah, and basically on the I'm not showing bits part, how do you think they had to do multiple cuts of her not accidentally popping out of her bra in this scene while doing this fighting?
Potentially, unless they got like some good tape going on.
Good. I don't know what the tape budget is for a $35,000 movie.
Yeah, they bought in bulk.
In bulk.
Elsewhere, the other pastor wakes up, now with an eye patch, and he is in the company of the ninja leader. Ninja leader shows Pastor his idea of getting the entire city of New York hooked on a special brand of cocaine, then cut off the supply so that everyone would then attend support group meetings run by Christians in order to increase church enrollment rates. That is the plot.
It's just the crack epidemic in the 80s, right?
Yep.
But yeah, it was... I think the line that stuck with me the most here is when he says it's 4 times more addictive than regular cocaine. Like they've actually tested it.
Right. And then he kills the other pastor. So then VelociPastor and Carol find out where the ninja hideout is. So they come face to face with the ninjas. And it turns out Evan Peters' ninja is actually VelociPastor's brother who felt slighted by his parents. So they fight the ninjas, and then Doug somehow gets some powers. Oh, Doug is VelociPastor. I never named him Doug in this entire note section except for right here.
It could just have been VelociPastor.
Yeah. And he gets some powers where he can use the Force to summon a sword and runs his brother through. Then the ninjas call out Final Boss Ninja, and he slashes Carol in the chest. And she dies while giving a bloody final monologue.
That even affects the ninjas.
Yeah. Then turns into the raptor and starts fighting the ninjas. But the ninja leader shoots him with an arrow of anti-venom that turns him back to the regular old pastor, all except for his hand, which he uses to rip the ninja's leader's head clean off his shoulders.
Yeah, I have to say it is fun that they tried to make the mannequin head look like the ninja.
Yeah, other than just being like pretty poor, just straight up mannequin head.
Yeah, I think I will applaud them for that effort because they didn't have to in the type of movie they were making, but that made the scene a little bit better than if it was just a random mannequin head.
Yeah. We then go to he runs over to Carol, and then we cut to the hospital where Carol is fine. She says she's fine a couple times.
Yeah.
And then we sort of end with kind of an epilogue kind of stinger where they're going to be on the run and doling out swift VelociPastor justice in their sweet 70s sports car.
Yeah. He quit Christianity or whatever he says.
Yeah.
I did love going back to the doctor, the hospital. I did like that just seems like a family doctor's office.
Yeah.
Not even close to what a hospital probably looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pastor's new religion is vengeance. That'd be a pretty good tagline.
Yeah, that's got to be the tagline for the next movie if they didn't already do that. but yeah, that's it. Like we said, it's breezy. Just glad that it's not a slog. Even though there are eye-rolly, cringy parts, they're at least pretty quick. And by that I mean they probably overstayed their welcome by like 45 seconds to a minute, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's good. They didn't linger on beat a dead horse too much in jokes. And I like I said, I did like to play on words when they would say things that if you say them in a serious tone right away, you don't understand the ridiculousness of it. You keep going back to, hooker doctor lawyer and pre-med law. You just hear it, and if you're not really paying attention, it just sort of goes over your head. But I think that's one of the reasons why they probably chose that actress, is that she could get through it. You didn't hear the smiling while saying those lines, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's one of these movies I always say, I don't know how it ends up on Peacock, but I would love to have at some point with, and not even saying any of the stuff we've written or especially you've written has been like this good stuff that we just wasn't understood and nobody gave us a chance. But you see this and you're like, wish we could have got 40 grand and seen what we could do with it. Because you would hope that as critics here that we could do a little bit better. It's at times when I think that and say that I feel like the Roger Ebert thing, where he makes his movie and it's like something that would be panned by somebody like Roger Ebert.
Yeah.
I feel like that would happen to anything we make. But yeah, it's like I said, maybe it'll have the opposite effect where I think in the Sharknado series, I think the first one is the best one just because it's not as in on the joke as the rest of the series is. Maybe the opposite here where they're too into the joke here and maybe they learn their lesson and kind of figure out what they want to parody in the second one. I haven't looked up what the gist behind it is, but I think I'm glad that we can, check a movie off like this every once in a while.
Okay. Yeah. And that's really it this episode. I don't have a third segment this week, so I think we're going to call it early.
Nice, short and breezy, just like the VelociPastor.
Exactly. So we're gonna head out. Check us out on all our socials. We're TikTamPod on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Threads. They Call This a Movie on TikTok and YouTube. Just check us out. Look for They Call This a Movie. We post some things there sometimes. If you have any questions, comments, you want to suggest a movie to us, hit us up, tictampod@gmail.com. And, go on any of your podcatcher's choice and give us a 5-star review. Helps out a great deal. And that's it. We're going to get out of here. The director of VelociPastor is Brendan Steer. So for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, this is Anthony Vecchio telling Brendan Steer, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you? Thanks for listening to They Call This a Movie. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts and be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAMPod. You can also check us out on TikTok at They Call This a Movie.